Hello, I'm Pastor Carl Gallups, and thank you for joining me on another edition of Insight. You know, a lot of people have been asking me about the potential prophetic connections to what's happening with the United States, North Korea, and how all that might be tied into Russia and China and Iran. Here's the bottom line. The Bible says that in the days before the coming of the Lord, there will be some kind of a multinational war. We can call it a world war, if you will. Jesus even said that in Matthew 24 when he said in those days nations would be rising against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms. In its proper context, it appears as though Jesus was speaking of some type of calamitous world war scenario. We know that we are the first generation in the history of the planet to be called the generation of world wars. My grandparents were still living during World War I. They went through that and World War II. My parents went through World War II. Now we might be on the brink of World War III. And the difference with our generation is that we are on the other side of the return of Israel, which is monumental prophetically. Plus, we're on the other side of Arab Spring. We're on the other side of the rise of ISIS. We're on the other side of Russia showing up in the Middle East and China showing up in the Middle East. We're on the other side of Russia and Iran forming a compact together, and China and Russia joining militaries together in Syria, an irreconcilable civil war and a collapsing nation there, right next door to Turkey, which is collapsing into another Ottoman Empire, an Islamic caliphate. So all of this is going on, and then there is North Korea. And here's the thing. A lot of people are missing this. North Korea and China have been tied together at the hip for decades. North Korea was supplied military troops, economic aid, and military hardware by China in the Korean War. To this day, China and North Korea have trade compacts. They have embassies in each other's capitals. I know that China's relationship with North Korea has been strained for the last couple of years. And I know that the United States is trying to make some compacts and to get a little closer to China. We see all of that in the process right now. We don't know where it will turn out. But we also know that China has joined its military troops with Russia in Syria. We also know that Russia is uniting and getting and making closer ties with Iran. We know that Ezekiel 38 speaks of the last days after Israel returns, that Magog, perhaps Russia, or at least a part of that, will join an alliance with Persia, which is modern-day Iran. So look at the connections. China and Russia connected to each other and to Iran. China connected to North Korea. China, a growing economic superpower. Not there yet, not equivalent to the United States, but getting close. China, a growing nuclear superpower. Russia, the number 2 nuclear superpower in the world. The United States of America, the number 1 nuclear superpower, now at odds and perhaps at war with North Korea, a former deep ally of China. So you see all of these connections. I don't know where everything's going to wind up. I'm not looking at that and saying this is World War III. Or this is that war in the scriptures. But I do know that world wars are built like this. It takes decades. World War I took 4 decades. World War II took 2 decades before everything snapped. We've been at this in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Turkey and Syria and involved with Israel. Everything that's going on, this has been going on for decades since Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And then 9/11, and then we in Iraq, Afghanistan, Middle East, Arab Spring, the rise of ISIS. You can see all the connections. So something is brewing. Something will snap one day, the Bible says. I don't know when, but I urge Christians, keep your eyes on what's happening in the world around you. Do not get complacent. Do not get lazy in your faith, and do not get lazy in your diligence. I tell Christians all the time who ask me, should we keep preparing? Should we be preppers? Well, of course, we should always prepare for tough times. I'm not saying run out and panic, but I'm saying that if tough times come in our generation, there will be a lot of people who are unprepared. So, stay in the Word, keep your faith, and just know we're living the most prophetic time since the first coming of Jesus Christ. We've been called to be ambassadors for the kingdom of Jesus Christ. I pray that you would be faithful in that cause. May the Lord bless you and keep you always.